how do you think social validation's impacted how brands operate, and what's the importance of it?
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, the latest stat that I read is that 99.9% of consumers read reviews on site before they're willing to make a purchase. And I think about like my own consumer behavior. Of course, I'm going to leave reviews and make sure that people are happy with that product before I make a purchase.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Blitz Growth. Super excited today because I have a great guest. My partner in crime, another Australian who lives in LA, Rachel, has done some amazing things over the past few years. She's got some crazy stories that we're going to go through and unbelievable experience working with brands. She's currently the VP at Strategic Partnerships at Okendo, which powers stores like Nomad, Glue, and Skims. Today, we're going to really dive deep into the importance of social validation, building strategic partnerships, and growing brands. So Rachel, so nice to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here, Jack. And thanks for that very kind intro.
No, it's well deserved. And I'm sure I left out at least 50% of the things you've actually done. But yeah, this is going to be a slightly different episode because we're really going to focus on, what you're seeing over hundreds of brands that you've worked with, millions and millions of dollars spent on marketing and growing brands, that sort of thing. So I think starting out, let's start at the beginning. If there is someone who's maybe got a small social following, or they've got a community, or they've got an idea or something, what do you see as a successful launch in those sorts of brands or e-commerce stores, those sorts of things? So I know you've seen a fair few startups and then also a fair few accelerations and scales, and then obviously some mature companies too. But what do you think goes into running a really successful brand and e-commerce store in today's environment?
For sure. So I think a lot of it comes down to product. I see a lot of brands that want to start selling just any kind of commodity product that they may be importing from Alibaba or sort of drop shipping. And for me, I've always really tried to stay away from encouraging that sort of business, because it's so difficult when you're competing against other retailers that are selling pretty much the same product as you. You need to have some sort of innovation or some sort of different angle for your product. Otherwise, consumers are just going to go wherever they can find it to be the cheapest, that product, and that's where they're going to purchase. And that ends up being a race to the bottom. And then no one's making money at the end because your margins are so small and you don't have enough capital to keep on chasing new audiences through marketing and different store initiatives. So I think for number one, it's really about finding that product or creating that product that speaks to an audience that they're not able to find anywhere else.
It kind of leads into my next point as well, as like the importance of brand trust now. Now I know being at Okendo, there's a lot of emphasis on this, but how has it changed now for brands building trust, authenticity, and we've worked on a lot of brands that are only actually distributing online or have a presence online. How do you think social validation's impacted how brands operate, and what's the importance of it?
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, the latest stat that I read is that 99.9% of consumers read reviews on site before they're willing to make a purchase. And I think about like my own consumer behavior. Of course, I'm going to leave reviews or read reviews and make sure that people are happy with that product before they make a purchase or before I make a purchase. I think an interesting thing to also note here is that your audience or shoppers are smartening up as well. So they don't want to see 5,000 5-star reviews. They want to see that authenticity, that maybe there's some 4-star reviews in there. Maybe there's some 1-star reviews. And that means that they're not all fake reviews and you are publishing the true feedback of your audience, which is really important to creating like I said, the authenticity of it all. And I think you can change a negative customer experience into a positive one or a positive reflection upon your brand when you do publish those negative reviews and you respond to them and you say, hey, like, I'm so sorry for your experience. Like, we've emailed you, or would be happy to do a full refund or exchange that product, because then me as a consumer or a new shopper that's never been to your store, I can see, oh, even if this product doesn't work for me, they're going to support me and they're going to be able to provide some sort of solution to my issue. And so I'm going to be so much more comfortable to go ahead and make that purchase, even if I haven't necessarily shopped with them before. And I think the point of social proof, or another point of social proof on site, is that you can help new shoppers to align their purchase decisions with people that have similar characteristics to them. So long gone are the days where it's like a 5-star review with some text. Now you've got all of these detailed customer and product attributes where maybe you're capturing someone's skin type, skin concern, skin tone, and their age range. And perhaps the quality or the flavor of the product, or those two obviously don't go together, skin type and flavor. But you know what I mean? So you're able to actually make better informed decisions, and you're more likely to convert when you see really useful information that's relevant to you.
Yeah, well, I see more and more the review section and the community area, whether it's a Facebook page or whatever it may be, some sort of public platform, like that becoming more important than like product descriptions and product pages and that sort of stuff. And obviously, back in the day when we started e-commerce a long time ago, we barely had any reviews on websites. And then I think Amazon probably came along and kind of changed that. But what do you think caused that big shift?
Yeah, it's such a good point. I think that Amazon probably had a lot to do with it. I think as well, things have been expedited throughout the pandemic because you're not able to necessarily go into stores and, feel how that fabric of the sweater actually feels, or able to try something on yourself, or get more of an understanding of the product in person. So that social proof that's more robust has become more important. So I think that's helping. I also just think that shoppers are becoming more discerning about shopping with new brands, and they want to make sure that they're making good decisions.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, when you think about the brands that do it really well, they usually have a lot of humor that goes behind their review section, and you'll see some of them actually go kind of viral on all these different social platforms that have accounts just dedicated to like creating memes or funny things or viral stories. But are there any brands off the top of your head that handle their reviews and their social validation really, really well?
Well,
I know it's a tough question.
Liquid Death does they do a really funny widget where they ask for like, on what level or what scale did the Liquid Death murder your thirst, and like, which side of the slider does this look better on, the left side or the right side? So they're actually playing with all our product attribute sliders and just making them almost irrelevant, but super humorous and fun for their audience. And they've just done an epic job. They're killing it.
Yeah, their branding is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so getting to that, they're obviously a big company. What about someone who's maybe just starting a brand, just starting a store maybe? How do they get their first kind of round of reviews, or how do they kind of, it's always tough when you've got a product page, you've got your review section, but you've got no reviews in there. So what's the best strategies for brands to collect like their first few reviews, or are there any strategies to collect lots of reviews?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you are sending out maybe test products, or you're using a micro-influencer strategy when you're just getting started, I would be, if you're fulfilling those orders in Shopify, or perhaps you're just sending them out directly, make sure you're collecting review content from those individuals. Micro-influencers and friends and family that are trying your products are usually really happy to help out in that regard. And you want to have at least 10 reviews on the PDP. That will kind of maximize your conversion rate on site once you have that content. So I'd say, yeah, leveraging those sources. If you have started selling on your site organically, then make sure you're sending review requests and reminders to every individual that has purchased. And my top tip for maximizing review generation is always to offer an incentive in return for that person taking their time to review your product. And you can even tier out incentives. So if you're looking to capture more customer UGC, or user-generated content, maybe you are offering 10% off your next order for a text review, and maybe it's 15% off for a photo review, and perhaps 20% off for a video review. And you want to be working with a reviews platform where you can have the rights to all of that content, because then it means your marketing agency can come along and they can even leverage that UGC in, say, like Facebook mashup ads or across Instagram ads, wherever it's useful. But some of the highest converting ad types I used to see on Instagram and Facebook were these like UGC mashups, where it's a lot of short, sharp videos cut together with sound bites and review like text overlay, and it's kind of scrappy. It doesn't feel highly produced, but it feels native almost to that platform, and it's really authentic and compelling.
Yeah, and I think it's only recently that the usage terms and rights and that sort of stuff has kind of become more and more important with user-generated content. Because I know back in the day it wasn't really even thought about. Like, it was just like, oh yeah, that person, they wouldn't mind us using this at all because they're getting popular. But yeah, now it's a kind of a serious thing. And you mentioned platforms, the review platforms do build that in. Is there any red flags or anything that brands should be aware of when collecting and using user-generated content? Any horror stories around that?
I don't have any horror stories personally, but I could see that potentially if a larger creator left you a review and there was some UGC attached, if they saw themselves being marketed on one of these platforms, they might have a little something to say about it. But I mean, it's hard to kind of go against that contract law where you signed and agreed to the terms of submitting review content. So I haven't seen anyone trying to push back on that. But then also a larger creator, one of these people with, say, hundreds of thousands of followers, they're probably not going to leave you review content unless you pay for it anyway, because that's like the nature of their business, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so main thing for brands, just make sure you've got those terms and conditions in place when you collect that. So it's you can't just swipe them from Instagram. Okay, that's a good one. And I think, so overall, is there any mistakes that you see brands making when it comes to reviews? Like, is there anything that brands shouldn't be doing? Because I know it's really easy to say these are the things you should do, but sometimes it's easy to give like advice on what not to do. Is there any kind of main things that you always advise brands or stores, just like, don't do that?
That's such a good question, and no one's ever asked me that before. It's usually like, what are your top tips? What are 10 things that you'd recommend around this? Okay, what not to do? Don't only publish all your good reviews and reject the bad ones. Make sure you're publishing a really good variety and responding to them well. Don't have the same reviews widget as everyone else. So often I'm going from site to site and I can see, okay, this is a reviews widget from this reviews provider, and they always look the same. You want to have something that reflects your brand and looks customized to the user experience journey that you want to uphold. And a lot of these older legacy reviews platforms don't give you a lot of customization ability, or you have to have a dev agency customizing the code for you. It's hard to manage. It doesn't do what you want it to. Just use a platform that's good, that allows you a lot of flexibility without having to write code, because your site is your brand. You want it to be a reflection of your brand, and you don't want it to look like everyone else's sad old reviews widget with this like gray, and I'm jaded, obviously. I've seen so many sad reviews widgets, and I'm just like, you don't have to look this way. And what else would I recommend? Avoid um, avoid just having the 5 stars with some text, because a 5-star review tells you that a customer likes a product, but it doesn't necessarily tell you anything else. And we always see those reviews where it's like, amazing, I love it. And that's great, but it's not telling you anything about the product. So if you're able to add in those attributes, whether they're customer or product, then you're going to provide a lot more value to your shoppers and potential customers.
Yeah. And so when it comes to, so good things to avoid there, but another question would be, so when it comes to, say you've got, let's say, a few reviews, what is the best way that brands can use their reviews in their marketing? Like, I know you said PDP, which is like, I think the product page. But what are other places or other areas they can use reviews in? Because, a review is so valuable and it can get used in so many different ways. But what are some other ways that brands can use reviews, and what do you think the best ways are to use your reviews rather than just having them on your product page only?
Yeah. So if we're talking about on-site, you could also use a media widget on your homepage that has like a kind of flash through of various reviews, or you could do a media gallery if you have a lot of really great customer UGC. If you're looking to leverage review content outside of your website, a great way is to push your star ratings through to Google Shopping ads. The ROAS lift that I've seen just by adding that star rating to Google Shopping is huge. It can get you almost double ROAS sometimes. It's crazy. Otherwise, mashup content, like the UGC mashup for your paid social ads. Or if you're using Klaviyo, we have an integration where you can dynamically add star ratings or reviews to your abandoned cart flows or product recommendation emails, anything like that. Or you can share your reviews over to Facebook and get your social proof out in that way.
And you're very, very familiar with Shopify, and ROAS means return on ad spend for anybody listening. So you're very familiar with Shopify, and how do you think they're managing this? Because I know all of these review platforms are essentially Shopify apps at the moment. And I know, going through the Shopify app store, you have limitations, but do you think people are going to keep using Shopify? Do you think that apps are the way to go? Do you think, building stuff custom? Like, how do you think brands should they go with Shopify, for one? And two, how do you think Shopify handles reviews? Do you think there's anything that could be better, or there's better alternatives, or do you think Shopify is still number one?
So that's a spicy question. I think if you're starting a brand, Shopify is the best place to begin. There are just so many plug and play apps that really are incredible and will help you to generate more revenue for your store. And Shopify is pretty much plug and play. They've made it so easy. I remember I've made my first Shopify store back in 2011, it must have been. And do you remember those gold flash tattoo things that all the girls were wearing at Coachella back then? Yeah, I had done my first study abroad in California, and then they didn't have these flash tattoos back in Australia. So I thought, I'll start importing these things from Alibaba, like I recommended not to do before. But I started importing them, and I built a Shopify site, and we're selling them through there, and it was all going great until, of course, plenty of other people started importing the same thing, and it became a race to the bottom. But the fact that Shopify is just so easy to get set up, and you don't need to write any code, and you can make something that's a really seamless experience for your customer base, incredible. I think that as you become more sophisticated in your life cycle as a brand, and you have more complex needs, or you have really high traffic or order volume, you're probably going to outgrow Shopify at some point. But that's when you become a really large enterprise brand. So I think there, for the size that the majority of brands are, from mom and pop to medium-sized businesses, Shopify is a really great place to be, and I would recommend it over the other common platforms that we hear in the ecosystem. But then once you get real huge, maybe you want a custom stack, maybe you just need more flexibility, or you can't, Shopify can't handle the spikes in traffic that you see, or some of these more complex needs. And then you probably have to look outside, and maybe headless is the right thing for you.
Yeah, well, it's I agree. I think Shopify is easy, but you do get to a point of outgrowing it. But that's very, very large brands. Okay, and then so we've gone over a bunch of social validation stuff, reviews, all those sorts of things, how you use those in your marketing. Now, I just want to quickly go over if there is, apart from, what was it, Liquid Coffee, I think it was. Or was it Liquid Death?
Liquid Death.
Apart from Liquid Death, are there any other brands that listeners should go and take a look at to kind of understand, like, or look at someone who's doing it well? Because it's really a lot easier to kind of like conceptualize this stuff when you can see someone who's already doing it and be like, okay, I understand now. I can pretty easily like replicate something like that for my brand. Is there a kind of a list of maybe even the top sort of customers at Okendo that people can go take a look at and get some ideas on, one, how their reviews should look, two, what type of reviews they should be getting? Because I know actually asking for more in-depth reviews is important, rather than just saying like, hey, did you like the product? More like, what did you like about the product? How did this change X, Y, Z in your life? And being a little bit more thoughtful when you're asking for that feedback. Is there anybody that you can think off the top of your head that is a good person to go and look at and, I wouldn't say replicate, but get inspiration from?
Yeah. In the apparel category, Buck Mason does a good job, as well as Nikki and Nix. And I'd sign up to some of the email lists as well, because I always learn a lot from the emails that I'm receiving from these brands too. In terms of skincare, Glow Recipes doing a good job, Crave Beauty as well, and Inky List I like. If you are looking at, say, maybe food and bev, Bev is a good one, or Shine Plus Drink. So those are a few to look at. They're all doing a great job.
Nice. Awesome. And then I can't not ask this, with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, any tips you can give stores and brands about how to best leverage this period? I know it's going to be crazier than ever because everything is online pretty much this year. A lot of it is direct to consumer now. What are some tips that you've seen in previous years? Because I know you've done a lot of e-commerce, Black Friday, Cyber Mondays. So what are some tips for, brands and stores of how to maximize the value and revenue they can make out of this kind of like Q4 period?
Yeah. I mean, start as early as possible, like fill up your funnel as early as you can so that you don't have to kind of compete with all of those brands that start hitting the gas pedal in marketing a little bit too close to the Black Friday, Cyber Monday period. You want to have a really good understanding of the types of creative that work, as well as the audiences that you're having cut through with, and then go hard on those people during the holiday period or the sale period, because that means that you're not going to have to spend as much money reaching these people, and you can reach more people. Leverage your social proof across various channels as well. So make sure you're putting those star ratings in through Google. Make sure you're creating like authentic ads that have those sound bites and review content that's going to help for that click to conversion. And then make sure that it's not all over after the Black Friday sale is done. Make sure you are following up with those individuals and you're creating lifetime customers, not someone that just comes and shops with you one time.
Yeah, great advice. And then when you're talking about, starting early, we've talked to a few different people, and this year seems to be all about the SMS and email, especially with all the Apple updates and all that sort of stuff coming through. So when you're saying starting early and we're talking about SMS and email, have you guys seen any brands kind of like collecting feedback or reviews via SMS at all? Or is that just like not being done yet?
Yeah, definitely. So we have an integration with Postscript at the moment, as well as Klaviyo SMS and OmniSend, and we have the attentive integration coming out in the next few weeks. So we allow you to collect your customer feedback via SMS through any of those platforms. We also create like a conditional split. So if you have the SMS number and marketing permission, the review request goes via the SMS channel. And if not, it goes via email. Maybe it's through Klaviyo, maybe it's through Okendo natively. You're able to set that up. And we see a lot of success. I mean, SMS just has such high open rates. And if you're able to hit people on the channel that they like to be communicated with on, it's super valuable. So we do see that like multi-channel approach work really well. And it's funny because a couple of years ago, we didn't think that SMS was going to take off like it did. I remember thinking to myself, oh, I don't really want all these companies spamming me. And then Postscript and Attentive came out and they're telling me they're getting 28x ROI, and it's crazy. And now, again, I like signing up for SMS alerts from various brands just so I can like keep my finger on the pulse. And sometimes I purchase too, but I'm also, I'm not super freaked out about being spammed right now as a consumer. So it's just interesting how much things change.
Yeah, well, I've kind of noticed, I'm one of those horrible Android users, but I've kind of noticed that now Android, or at least I think it's Google or Android or whoever makes the decisions around there, has started a kind of like a spam folder for my SMS now. So now I'm getting like 2 feeds of like friends and family messages, and then kind of like marketing promotions, and then spam. So I don't know if that's kind of the way that's going, but it seems to be that, SMS is turning a little bit into the, the email kind of environment where you can have segregation of the messages that you're getting. But how long do you think SMS is going to last before marketers ruin it?
Hey, I don't know, but jump in now while you can. We'll see. I think it's still got a fair while to go. But there's a lot of changes happening right now in the marketing world with all of these privacy updates and iOS changes and the cookie apocalypse and all of these things. So I think you can't ever become comfortable with what you're doing. You have to constantly work to improve and stay ahead of the curve and be an early adopter on different channels. And, I was listening to your podcast from last week with Evan Horowitz around TikTok. And no joke, you said to me almost 2 years ago to date, it was Halloween, and I think we were going out for dinner. And I said to you, what's next? And you said TikTok. You and Eric, you said TikTok. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, oh, well, I had a call with them about TikTok ads a while ago, but it's all just like little girls dancing, isn't it? And now things have changed. So you called that. Shout out to you.
Yeah, well, I wish I'd acted more on it. No, it's an interesting platform, and it's still got a long way to go, I'm sure. Because as we spend more and more money on there, we do see it's not at the level of kind of like the Instagrams and Googles just yet, but you can definitely tell it's getting there. It's kind of like a repeat of where Instagram was when they first started. There was not as much spending and purchasing going on there, and then they'll probably figure out how to make that easier and better and get people used to buying via TikTok, and then it'll turn into Instagram, which is just a shopping catalog now pretty much.
Right, exactly. Yeah, what's that going to do to Shopify? Not sure.
Yeah, well, I think TikTok and Shopify were working on a direct integration. So I think you can like literally, well, at some point you'll be able to pull in your your Shopify products into TikTok. But I was really thinking one of the e-commerce brands were going to try and buy TikTok. That's what I thought would have been a interesting move, but didn't end up going through.
Yeah, there was that debacle a few years back when America was making the rule that it need to be owned by American companies for TikTok to be legal here. So
well, too many users, overpowered. But no, it's an interesting platform for sure. And I think that kind of all that privacy updates, that's reducing pixel data. It's kind of having an issue on open and click-through rates for email. I'm sure Apple will start looking at how to put more privacy on text messaging and all that sort of stuff. But I think the earlier you get started, the more advantage you have, because this stuff just will keep getting more and more and more strict. And really, it was so unregulated for so long. So the guys who started early, they collected a bunch of reviews, collected a big customer database, and did all that sort of stuff. They're at a little bit of an advantage. So, the earlier you start, I think the better.
For sure. And I think there's more of a focus on zero-party data collection now too. And so we're enabling our merchants or brands to collect information directly from their consumer base and then leverage that to target them with more personalized offerings and provide an overall better customer experience. Because if you're telling me that your skin type is dry or combination skin, then I'm going to market products to you that suit that skin concern. And then you're going to be more likely to click through and convert, whether it's an email or maybe it's an ad on Facebook, or you can build out segments in, say, Klaviyo of people with the same characteristics and use that for lookalike audiences on Facebook. So you're able to reach consumers that maybe have similar characteristics to those individuals and maybe more likely to purchase. So I think we're just scratching the surface in zero-party data, and we're going to see more developments there in the next, 6, 12, 18 months.
Yeah, and for those listening who don't know what zero-party data means, can you wrap it up in a sentence or two? Because I know this can be an entire essay. But what's the easiest way to explain zero-party data?
Yeah, and this is my new buzzword too. Full transparency. I used to say first-party data, but the term is zero-party data when you've collected that information directly from your customer base. First-party data is when you have taken information on the customer based on their interactions on your site, for example. And then second-party data is when you collect it from a different source, information on that customer. And third-party data is when you buy it from somewhere else. Hopefully that's all.
Third party is struggling. We'll have negative one-party data soon.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
Yeah. This is my next 2-year prediction.
Very good.
Okay, so Rachel covered so much stuff today. Thank you for sharing everything. If people want to find out more about you or Okendo, anything that you're working on, or they just want to ask you more questions about this sort of stuff, where can they find you? What's the best place to get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to learn more about Okendo, you can visit okendo.io. And if you'd like to hear more from me, or you've got any specific questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active over there. And if anyone did want to try out Okendo, we're doing a Black Friday, Cyber Monday special at the moment where you get 90 days free so that you don't have to pay anything until next year. And it just means you'll be all set up and ready to capitalize on that influx of traffic over the holiday period. But yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Rachel Tyers.
Nice. Well, I think I'll add all the links in there as well. But Rachel, thank you so much. I know you're a hard person to track down and you're super busy, so really appreciate your time. And thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Jack.
Yeah. Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel, so please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.